The galaxy was quiet. Too quiet. For years, the great alien empires had lived in an uneasy peace. Their fleets patrolled the stars, their spies whispered in hidden channels, and their rulers made promises they did not believe. Everyone expected another war to come someday. But no one expected where it would begin or who would start it. It began with whispers. Strange signals drifted through the void, carrying fragments of words no translator could decode. The messages came from an uncharted region near the Perseus Arm, a place most civilizations had abandoned long ago. At first, the signals were dismissed as natural interference, cosmic noise. But then came the images. A transmission caught by 3 different fleets showed something impossible. A fleet of human ships. The galaxy froze. Humans were supposed to be gone. Their bloodlines had been swallowed by centuries of mixing, their name reduced to myth. The cult of man swore they would return, but even the cultists whispered doubts in private. Pure humans were fairy tales told by radicals, no more real than gods. And yet here were warships flying with the symbol of Earth on their hulls. The Council of Species met in panic. "What are they?" asked the Avar Chancellor, his 4 wings trembling. "Imposters. Pretenders," spat the reptilian core. "No," whispered Lara, a young Zell diplomat with wide silver eyes. "They look real." The images were played again on the vast amphitheater walls. Steel-gray ships with sharp, angular hulls. Energy signatures far stronger than any known drive. A formation so disciplined, so precise, that even the most disciplined fleets of the Zell looked like scattered hunters in comparison. Then came the recording that silenced the chamber. The human fleet had engaged. Not against some pirate band. Not against smugglers, but against a Drade armada species infamous for their brutal conquests. The Drade had crushed entire star systems with ease, their biomechanical warships leaving nothing but ash. No one had ever faced the Drade and won. Not the Concord, not the Velen, not even the mighty Avar, but the humans did. The footage showed it in terrible clarity. Human ships slipped into formation like dancers on a stage. Their weapons burned with light no one recognized. Drade vessels were torn apart as though they were made of paper. The battle lasted only minutes. The humans lost nothing. The Drade lost everything. It was impossible, and yet it was real. Supremacy George watched the footage with a heart that beat too fast. His lace handkerchief trembled in his perfect fingers. For years he had dreamed of this moment, the return of true humans, not tainted hybrids like himself. But the sight left him uneasy. The humans were not glorious idols carved from legend. They were war. Cold, efficient war. Beside him, hybrid Olivia leaned closer. Her scaled fingers gripped the console, her slitted eyes wide. "They shouldn't exist," she whispered. "They do," George answered softly. "And if they are real, the cult has been right all along." Olivia turned to him. "If they are real, supremacy, then all our lives are lies." George said nothing. His eyes remained on the ships. On the symbol of Earth burning bright on every hull, the news spread like fire through dry forests. Across the galaxy, whispers turned into roars. Humans have returned. The pure ones are back. The Death Worlders walk again. Merchants closed their trade routes, fearing human raids. Admirals reinforced their borders, fearing human invasion. Entire colonies rioted, chanting songs of human myths that had lain buried for centuries. And then came the message. It was broadcast across every known channel. In every language, on every frequency. The screen went black. Then a figure appeared, a human. He was tall, dressed in a simple uniform of dark gray. His face was calm, his eyes steady. But there was a weight in his gaze that pressed into every heart that saw him. "This is Admiral. Side of the Terran fleet." His voice was steady, controlled, without arrogance but without apology. "We have returned." The galaxy shuddered. "You believed us gone?" he continued. "Extinct, diluted, forgotten. But humanity does not vanish. We endure, we grow stronger, and now we take back what was lost. The message ended. No threat, no demands. Only certainty, and that certainty was more terrifying than any ultimatum. The council screamed in chaos. This is war. The Avar shrieked. We must unite before they strike again. The Corps hissed. They destroyed the Drade, whispered Lair, trembling. If they wanted war, they would already be at our doors. Supremacy George stood apart, watching the council tear itself apart. Inside, he was shaking. Not from fear, but from something far more dangerous. Hope. Could it be true? Could humanity truly have returned? And if they had, what place did that leave for hybrids like him? On the far side of the galaxy, Admiral Mara Sayed studied the latest scans. Her fleet hovered near the ruins of the Drade. The humans had revealed themselves too soon, but they had no choice. The cult of man's machine had opened the way. And now secrecy was impossible. Admiral, said Dr. Chen, her science officer, the council will panic. They should, Mara replied coldly. And the cultists will worship you. They must not. Humanity was never meant to be worshipped. We are not gods. We are survivors. She looked out at the stars, her jaw set. She knew the council would see her fleet as a threat. She knew war was coming, but the war would not be what they expected, because humans had not come to conquer. They had come to remind the galaxy what being human truly meant. Yet across those same stars, another war was already beginning. The Corps secretly armed their fleets. The Avar whispered of alliances. And deep in the shadows, Supremacy George sharpened his ambition. If true humans had returned, then his dream of purity was within reach. But if they were not the perfection he sought, then he would make them into it, for the first time in centuries. The galaxy was no longer quiet. It trembled, because humanity had returned, and with them came the unexpected war. The galaxy had not slept since the humans returned. Every council, every empire, every colony whispered the same question. Were they really pure? Were they truly human? The broadcasts of Admiral Mara Sayed still echoed across space, and yet no one could agree on what it meant. To some, it was salvation. To others, it was the end of everything. But the cult of man believed only one thing. This was the moment they had prayed for, on a barren moon at the edge of Velen space. The cult's great machine hummed to life again. Its enormous dome spun, glowing with arcs of unstable energy. Hybrid Olivia's scaled hands shook as she calibrated the controls. Supremacy George stood behind her, his lace handkerchief pressed to his face. His perfect eyes fixed on the rippling void forming at the center. The rift opened at first. Only static filled the chamber. Harsh white noise spilled from the speakers. Scientists winced, covering their ears. Then, through the static, came a voice. It was faint, distorted, but undeniably human. You don't know what human means? The room froze. Every eye turned to the portal. To the rippling blackness that had once shown them visions of Earth, the voice repeated louder this time. Clear enough that even the lowest hybrid could not mistake it. You don't know what human means. Panic broke out. Some cultists dropped to their knees, convinced they had heard the voice of a god. Others scrambled to check readings, desperate to explain it as a malfunction. But Supremacy George did not move. His hands trembled, but his face remained calm, carved from marble. Record everything, he ordered. His voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Olivia hesitated. Supremacy. This shouldn't be possible. The machine is not designed for audio transmission. The past cannot speak to us. George's eyes narrowed. And yet, it does. He stepped closer to the portal. The static roared again, swallowing the chamber. Then the voice returned. You search for purity. But purity is an illusion. The words stabbed into George's chest. His handkerchief slipped from his fingers. Around him, the mongrels gasped, whispering prayers. Olivia's scales paled as she turned to him. Supremacy, if this is real. Then everything we believe silence, George snapped, his face tight with anger. This is a test. Humanity is speaking to us, and it is our duty to listen. But deep inside, he felt a tremor of fear far across the stars. Admiral Mara Saeed listened to her officers debate the same problem. The cult machine has connected to us.
Dr. Chen explained.
We intercepted a burst of energy along the rift. It's leaking into the past. So they heard us, Mara said. Yes, Chen nodded grimly. And more importantly, we heard them. Mara frowned. Them. Chen leaned forward. Admiral, something else exists in that rift. Not just echoes of old Earth, not just our transmissions. Something is speaking back. The bridge fell silent. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Even the most disciplined soldiers could not mask their unease. Admiral Chen whispered, I think the past is alive. Back in the cult chamber, the voice grew louder. The static shifted, forming broken syllables, as if the past itself was struggling to speak through time. You divide yourselves. You blind. You forget. George's perfect hands curled into fists. His eyes burned with fury. This is corruption, he hissed. This is not humanity's voice. This is some alien infection trying to poison our faith. But even as he spoke, doubt gnawed at him. The voice sounded so real, so powerful. Olivia stepped closer to the portal. Supremacy. Maybe this is the truth. Maybe humans were never one shape. Maybe purity was never the point. George spun on her, his face twisted with rage. Do not speak such heresy. But Olivia did not flinch. For the first time, she looked at him not with fear, but with pity. The machine surged. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Consoles exploded as engineers scrambled to shut down power. But before the rift collapsed, one final phrase cut through the chaos. Find us. And remember. Then the portal died. Smoke filled the chamber. The cultists coughed and stumbled. Their white uniforms smeared with ashdot, George stood tall among them, though his chest ached with terror. Rebuild it, he ordered coldly. Rebuild it stronger. I want the probe ready. If humanity is hiding something, we will find it. His words were calm, but inside, his thoughts raged. What if Olivia is right? What if the perfect human was never real? What if Supremacy George am chasing a dream that does not exist? He crushed the thought before it could grow. No, he would not let one voice destroy the faith of centuries. He would prove humanity's perfection, even if it killed him. Across the galaxy, the whispers spread. The past has spoken. The dead are alive. Humans are more than we thought. Admiral Mara Sayed read the reports in silence. The council was in chaos. The cult was emboldened. And the galaxy was tearing itself apart with fear. But she knew the truth. This was only the beginning. And the true war had not yet begun. The machine was ready again. The great dome rotated with a low, thunderous hum, filling the cult's underground chamber with flickering blue light. Sparks danced across the consoles as engineers whispered prayers, their faces pale with both fear and hope. At the center of it all, the rift swirled open once more. This time, it was not just a window. This time it was a door. Supremacy George stood tall before it, his lace handkerchief pressed delicately against his face. His perfect pink skin glowed in the strange light, though his heart pounded faster than he dared admit. This would be the moment. This would be the proof. Prepare the probe, he commanded. The machine released a sharp crack as a small vessel, no larger than a coffin, floated toward the rift. The probe's hull was covered in sensors, cameras, and sacred symbols of the cult. Inside it hummed with power, ready to transmit every secret it found. The rift hissed, its edges sparking like fire. Then, with a flash, the probe slipped through, vanishing into another time. For several long, breathless moments, nothing happened. The cultists held their breath, their eyes glued to the screens. Supremacy George clenched his fists, praying silently. Then, the images appeared: blue skies, white clouds drifting lazily. The probe's camera shifted, and there it was. Earth, not a simulation, not a reconstruction. not a picture from an old archive. This was Earth, alive, real, and whole. The chamber erupted in gasps. Some cultists cried. Others fell to their knees. George simply stared, his chest tightening with awe. Closer, he whispered. Bring us closer. The probe descended. Land came into view, forests of green, rivers glinting under sunlight, sprawling cities filled with towers of glass and steel. Cars moved along wide roads. Crowds of people filled the streets. Humans, not hybrids, not mongrels, not diluted descendants, but real, living humans. The cultists cheered. Tears streamed down their faces. To them, this was proof beyond question. Their faith had been rewarded. But then, something strange happened. One of the probe's cameras turned toward a small park in the middle of a city. Families sat on benches. Children played on swings. People laughed, talked, and walked. And then, one of them stopped, a young woman. Dark hair, brown skin, bright eyes. She turned her head, slowly staring straight at the probe's hidden lens. For a heartbeat, she simply looked. Then she smiled. The cultists froze. That's impossible, one engineer shouted. She can't see it, another stammered. The past is blind, Olivia hissed. Her scaled hands clutched the console. It's just an illusion, but George knew better. His heart was racing, his breath shallow. That smile was no accident. She saw us, he whispered. The probe trembled. Alarms blared as the feed distorted. Static crawled across the screens. Energy surge. Someone cried. The probe is being pulled before they could react. The transmission warped violently. The image shattered into a blur of light and shadow. The probe's hull screamed over the coms as though something was tearing it apart, and then silence. The feed was gone. The probe was gone. Chaos filled the chamber. Cultists shouted, argued, and scrambled to recover the signal. Olivia shouted for order, her slitted eyes wide with panic. But George stood perfectly still, staring at the dead screens. She knew we were there, he said softly. She smiled. At us. Across 2,000 years? Olivia turned to him, her voice sharp. Supremacy, you don't understand what you're saying. This is impossible. The past cannot see the future. The woman was just... No, George snapped, his eyes blazing. She saw us. Humanity saw us. And that means... He stepped forward, his voice rising with feverish conviction. They are more powerful than we ever imagined. Across the galaxy. Word of the probe spread. The Council received fragments of the transmission, smuggled through hidden channels. Admirals replayed the moment of the woman's smile again and again, their faces pale. She looked at it, one whispered. She looked into time. Is this the power of true humans? Another asked. And in the shadows of the council chambers, panic grew. If humans could see the future, what else could they do? Far away, Admiral Mara Sade reviewed the intercepted data. She leaned over the console, her sharp eyes scanning every line. The cult succeeded, Dr. Chen said grimly. They touched the past, and the past touched back. Mara said nothing. She replayed the moment of the woman's smile. Again and again. She knows, Mara whispered. She knows we're here. Chen swallowed hard. Admiral, what if humanity never really left? What if the past was never gone? Mara turned, her jaw set. Then the galaxy is in more danger than it realizes. Because if humans can speak across time, then nothing will stop them. Meanwhile, Supremacy George made his choice. The probe failed, Olivia insisted. We cannot risk another attempt. The rift is unstable. George ignored her. He raised his hand, his perfect face lit with fanatic light. Build another, he ordered. Stronger, faster, send it deeper. If the humans can see us, then we must see them. We must learn their secret. Their power must be ours. The cultists bowed. Olivia hesitated, fear flickering in her eyes. But George's will was absolute. The next probe would be built. And this time, it would not just look, it would touch. The chamber shook with power. For weeks, the cult of man had rebuilt their machine after the probe's destruction. Stronger generators, reinforced stabilizers, more sacred symbols carved into its frame. Now the dome hummed louder than ever, glowing with arcs of blue lightning. The cultists whispered prayers. Some trembled with excitement, others with fear. Supremacy George stood proudly at the center, his lace handkerchief pressed delicately to his perfect nose. He had demanded this new attempt. He would not rest until the truth of humanity was his. Hybrid Olivia stood at the main console, her slitted eyes sharp, her scaled fingers flying across the controls. She had warned George of the risks. She had begged him to stop. But George's will was iron. Begin, George commanded, and the machine obeyed. The rift flared open with a blinding flash, brighter than any before. The cultists shielded their eyes, gasping as the void twisted into view. But what they saw this time was not blue skies, not a city street, not laughter of children. It was darkness, a cavern of stone. Shadows clung to the walls. Strange machines lined the chamber, covered in dust, but glowing faintly with ancient power. And at the center, pods, dozens of them. Tall glass cylinders filled with pale liquid, each containing a human body. The cultists gasped. Some fell to their knees. Others screamed in awe. "They are here," one whispered. "The pure ones," another cried. Inside the pods, the humans slept. Their forms were unmistakable. 2 arms, 2 legs, faces untouched by alien blood. But their bodies glowed faintly. Veins of light pulsing beneath their skin as though fire flowed through them. Supremacy George's breath caught. His eyes widened. His voice trembled with reverence. At last, perfection. The chamber erupted in shouts. Some cultists called for celebration. Others demanded immediate awakening of the sleepers. Olivia slammed her clawed hand against the console. "Stop," she shouted. "You don't understand. These pods are ancient. They're not simple machines. They're prisons." George turned to her, his face cold. "Prisons. No, they are vessels of purity. The humans were preserving themselves until the galaxy was ready for their return." Olivia shook her head violently. "You don't see it. Look at the energy readings. These aren't stasis pods, they're containment. Something is being held back." But George ignored her. His eyes were locked on the figures in the pods. Their glowing veins. Their perfect forms. "They are the true humans," he whispered. "The ones we have waited for?" The cultists worked feverishly, feeding more power into the rift. The image sharpened, focusing on the pods. Dust shook free. Cracks of light spread across their glass walls. Then, one of the humans moved. A pale hand twitched. Fingers curled. A face shifted, lips parting as if to breathe. The cultists screamed with joy. Some cried. Some fainted. Supremacy George's knees nearly gave way. He pressed his hand to the screen as though to touch the figure. "Wake," he whispered. "Wake and lead us." But Olivia's voice cut through the chaos, filled with fear, supremacy. "The energy is unstable. If we keep pushing, the pods won't just open, they'll rupture." George snapped his head toward her, fury blazing in his perfect eyes. "Then let them rupture. Let humanity rise again." The pod shattered, glass exploded outward. Liquid poured across the floor, and the figure inside stumbled forward, collapsing to their knees. Gasps filled the cult chamber. It was a woman, tall, dark-haired, her eyes glowing like molten gold. She breathed in sharply, her chest heaving, her skin shimmering with power. Veins of light traced her body like rivers of fire. The cultist fell silent. Then she lifted her head, and her gaze pierced through the rift. Through the cameras, through the entire chamber, the cultists cried out, falling to their knees in terror and worship. Some whispered prayers, others screamed. George stood frozen, his breath locked in his throat. The woman opened her mouth and spoke. "You are children," her voice thundered, not through speakers but directly into their minds. "You seek purity. You seek perfection, but you do not understand. The cultists trembled. Some covered their ears, though it did nothing to block her voice. Others wept openly, their bodies shaking. Olivia's face turned pale. She clutched the console, whispering, "No, no, this isn't possible." Supremacy George's lips trembled. You are human." The woman's glowing eyes burned brighter. "I am more than human. I am Archivist Mira. I carry the memory of 1,000,000,000 souls. I am the truth you have forgotten." The chamber shook with her words. Sparks rained from the machine. The rift pulsed dangerously. "You worship purity," Mira said, her voice echoing like thunder. "But purity was never our strength. Diversity was, difference was, adaptation was. Humanity was never one shape. Humanity was all shapes." The cultists broke. Some screamed denial. Some clung to George, begging him to speak. Others tore at their own robes, lost in confusion. George's perfect face twisted in fury. His hands shook. "Lies," he shouted. "You speak lies?" Humanity was perfection. Humanity was one form, one blood, one destiny. But Mira only looked at him with calm pity. "You are blind," she said softly. George's rage boiled. He turned to the cultists, his voice cracking with desperate anger. "Do not listen. This creature is not human, it is a false god, a corruption of our dream. Humanity must be pure." But even as he shouted, more pods cracked. More figures stirred. Men, women, tall, short, pale, dark, each glowing with the same light. They stepped from their prisons, their golden eyes fixed on the cult, and with every step, the truth grew harder to deny. Humanity was not one. Humanity was many. The rift screamed. The machine shook violently. Olivia cried out, clawing at the console. "Supremacy! The energy is overloading. We have to shut it down." But George's voice was lost in his fury. "No, keep it open. Bring them all through. We will take their power." Olivia made her choice. She slammed her scaled fist down on the emergency cutoff. The rift shrieked like a wounded beast. The image warped, distorting into shadows and fire. The cultists screamed as the floor split, sparks raining from the ceiling, and then silence. The rift was gone. The pods, the figures, the archivist, all gone. Only the echo of her words remained, burning in their minds. Humanity was never one shape. Humanity was all shapes. Supremacy George stood trembling, his face pale with rage and despair. His handkerchief lay forgotten on the floor, trampled in the chaos. He turned slowly to his cultists. His perfect face twisted into a mask of fury. "She lies," he hissed. "Do you hear me? She lies. Humanity is pure. It must be pure, and I will prove it, even if I must tear the galaxy apart to do so." The cultists bowed in silence, some out of fear, some out of doubt. And Olivia stood in the shadows, her heart heavy, her mind burning with one truth she could no longer deny. The pure ones had awakened, and nothing would ever be the same. The cult chamber still smelled of burnt metal and ozone. The rift had collapsed, leaving behind only cracked consoles and frightened whispers. Supremacy George stood in the wreckage, his perfect face twisted with fury. Hybrid Olivia, trembling and pale, watched him with silent dread. The pure ones were gone, but their voices still rang in every cultist's mind. Humanity was never one shape. Humanity was all shapes. Most were shaken. Some were broken. And George was furious. "This is not over," he growled. "We will open the rift again. We will drag them through. We will force them to kneel." But even as he shouted, a strange hum filled the air. The cultists froze. Lights flickered. Screens flared to life, though the machine was dead. And in the center of the chamber, where the rift had closed, a shape appeared. A woman. She stepped forward slowly, her form glowing faintly with golden light. Her hair was dark, her eyes molten gold. Her presence calm but heavy with power. It was Archivist Mira, gasps tore through the chamber. Cultists fell to their knees, some weeping, some screaming. George staggered back, his eyes wide with rage and disbelief. "No," he whispered. "Impossible. The rift is closed. You cannot be here." Mira's gaze swept over the chamber. Her voice rang not in the air, but directly in their minds. "Did you think walls of time could stop us? Did you think locks of stone could hold us? Humanity adapts. Humanity endures. Humanity walks where it chooses." The cultists trembled. Even Olivia's sharp breath caught in her throat. George forced himself forward, his handkerchief long forgotten on the ground. His voice cracked with desperation. You are human." Mira looked at him, her eyes filled with pity. "I am more than human. I am memory. I am the voice of all who came before. I am what you have forgotten." George's hand shook. His face twisted into rage. "Then you are a liar." He spat. "Purity is truth. Humanity is one, and I will tear the truth from you if I must." The cult chamber erupted. Some cultists crawled forward, reaching toward Mira as if to worship. Others screamed at George's words, torn between faith and fear. Olivia stared in silence, her heart pounding. But Mira only stood still. "You seek to cage humanity," she said softly. "But humanity was never meant to be caged. It was meant to grow, to change, to become," George snarled. "Enough." Guards seize her. The mongrel guards hesitated. Their weapons shook in their hands. None dared move. Mira's golden eyes swept over them, and their weapons fell from trembling fingers. "You cannot command them against me," Mira said calmly. "You cannot command humanity against itself." Across the galaxy, word of Mira's appearance spread like wildfire. Some colonies whispered her name as prophecy. Some empires denounced her as a trick. The council argued endlessly, their chambers filled with shouting. But everywhere, fear and awe grew. Admiral Mara Sade sat silently on her flagship, watching the intercepted transmission. Mira's glowing form filled the screen. Her calm words struck deeper than any weapon. "She crossed the rift," Dr. Chen whispered. "She shouldn't be here. But she is." Mara's jaw tightened. "She's here because she wants to be." Chen swallowed hard. "Admiral, if she truly carries the memory of all humanity, then she is more dangerous than any fleet." Mara said nothing. Her eyes stayed locked on Mira's. Back in the cult chamber, Mira turned her gaze on George. "You call yourself Supremacy," she said. "But you are only a shadow, a fragment. Humanity is not measured in your skin, your blood, or your face. Humanity is measured in what you choose." George trembled. For a heartbeat, doubt flickered in his eyes. But then fury swallowed it whole. "I will not listen to lies," he roared. "I will not let you destroy everything we have built." He grabbed a weapon from a fallen guard, his hand shaking but his aim steady. He pointed it at Mira's chest. "Bow," he hissed. "Bow to your supremacy," the cultists gasped. Olivia shouted, "George, no!" But Mira only stepped closer. "Shoot me if you must," she said softly, "but you will not kill me. I am in every face you see. I am in every voice you hear. I am in you." George's finger hovered on the trigger. Sweat poured down his perfect face, and then he fired. The shot tore through Mira's chest. Her form shimmered, breaking apart like glass. For a moment, silence fell over the chamber. George stood panting, the weapon shaking in his hand. His lips curled into a trembling smile. "See?" he whispered. "She was nothing. An illusion. A trick, but then—" Mira's voice filled the chamber again. "Calm, steady, unbroken. You cannot kill what you is." The golden light swirled back together. Her form reappeared, whole, unshaken. Her eyes glowed brighter than before. The cultists screamed. Some collapsed in terror. Others cried in worship. Olivia stared, her scales pale with fear. George dropped the weapon. His perfect face was twisted with horror. "No," he whispered. "No, This cannot be. Mira stepped closer, her gaze never leaving his. This is contact, she said softly. This is the truth you feared. Humanity is not your dream. Humanity is your reality, and it is coming. The chamber shook violently. The machine, long overloaded, sparked and screamed. The walls trembled. The rift flickered back to life, unstable and furious. Mira's glowing form began to fade, but her voice echoed one last time. Choose George. Worship shadows. Or walk with us into the light. Then she was gone. The rift collapsed. The machine exploded, throwing cultists to the floor. Smoke filled the chamber. The screams of the dying echoed through the halls, and Supremacy George knelt in the wreckage, trembling, broken, but even in his despair, fury burned in his heart. If humanity had returned, then he would not worship them. He would conquer them on her flagship. Admiral Mara Saeed turned away from the transmission. "Prepare the fleet," she ordered quietly. "Admiral?" Chen asked. Mara's eyes were hard as steel. "We've made contact, and now the galaxy will never be the same." The cult chamber was a graveyard. Smoke still clung to the cracked stone walls. Consoles sparked weakly, their screens shattered. The once proud machine was nothing more than a broken skeleton of twisted metal and melted glass. Cultists lay scattered across the floor. Some groaned, wounded, but alive. Others were still, their white robes burned black. The great dream of the cult of man had ended in ruin, and at the center of it all knelt Supremacy George. His lace handkerchief long gone, his perfect face streaked with sweat and ash. His body trembled. His mind burned. Archivist Mira's words still echoed in his skull. Humanity was never one shape. Humanity was all shapes. Choose George. Worship shadows. Or walk with us into the light. But George would not choose light. He chose rage. He staggered to his feet, his body shaking, his eyes wild. Around him, the cultists whispered in fear. Some clung to each other, repeating Mira's words like a prayer. Others looked at George with doubt in their eyes. For the first time in his life, George saw it. They no longer believed him. He clenched his fists, his perfect skin trembling. "She lies," he shouted, his voice hoarse but sharp. "She is no human. She is a false god, a phantom meant to trick us. Humanity is pure. Humanity must be pure." The cultists stared at him in silence. Some bowed their heads, too afraid to defy him, but many did not move. Their silence cut deeper than any blade. Olivia stepped forward from the shadows, her scales catching the dim light. Her slitted eyes were sharp, steady, unflinching. "Supremacy," she said softly. "You saw her? You heard her. You cannot deny it. Humanity was never about purity. It was never about one form. It was about all forms, and we were part of it all along." George spun on her, his face twisting with fury. "Silence, mongrel," he screamed. "You are filth. You are nothing. Do not speak of humanity as if you belong to it." But Olivia did not flinch. She raised her head high. For the first time, her voice rang with strength. "I do belong. We all do, and you know it." The chamber erupted in whispers. Some cultists nodded, their faces filled with hope. Others stared at George with open doubt. The foundation of the cult was cracking. Their faith was crumbling. George's hands shook. His breath came in short gasps. He felt the world slipping from his grasp. "No," he whispered. "No, I will not lose this. I am supremacy. I am the highest. I am." But before he could finish, the walls trembled. The rift was opening again. The cultist screamed, scattering as blue light tore through the chamber. The broken machine sparked to life, its shattered frame glowing with impossible power. The air rippled. The floor shook, and through the rift stepped Archivist Mira. Her golden eyes burned brighter than before. Her presence filled the chamber like a storm. The cultists fell silent. Some dropped to their knees in awe. Others covered their faces in terror. Mira looked at George. "You cannot hold them," she said softly. "Not with lies. Not with chains. Humanity cannot be caged." George trembled, his teeth clenched. You will not take them from me. I am Supremacy. I am their leader." Mira shook her head slowly. "You were never their leader. You were their jailer? And the jailer's time is over?" George screamed. His voice cracked with rage and desperation. "Guards. Kill her." But no guards moved. The mongrels looked at Mira, their weapons falling from their hands. Their eyes were filled with tears. For the first time in their lives, they felt something they had never known before. They felt human. Mira turned to them, her voice warm, steady, unshakable. "You are not less. You are not broken. You are not tainted. You are human. All of you." The cultists wept. Some cried out her name. Others whispered words of freedom. The chamber filled not with fear, but with hope. And George felt his world collapse. "No," he whispered. His perfect face twisted into madness. "No, I will not let this happen." He lunged toward the rift, his hands clawing at the glowing light. "If I must tear humanity from time itself, I will. It will be mine, mine." The rift screamed. The chamber shook violently. Olivia cried out, rushing forward. "George, stop. You'll destroy everything." But George did not stop. His body burned in the light. His scream echoed through the chamber, filled with fury and despair. And then he was gone, swallowed by the rift. Silence fell. The cultists stared at the empty space where George had been. Some wept in relief. Others trembled in fear. Olivia stood frozen, her heart heavy, her mind reeling. Mira's voice broke the silence. "Do not fear. His path was his choice. Yours does not have to be." She looked at the cultists, her golden eyes calm. "You have been chained by lies, but now you are free. Humanity does not belong to one blood, one face, one dream. Humanity belongs to all of you. It always has." The cultists bowed their heads, some sobbing, some whispering prayers of thanks. For the first time, their faith was not in George. It was in themselves. Far across the galaxy, the council trembled with news of the cult's collapse. Whispers spread like wildfire. The doctrine is broken. The cult has fallen. Humanity is not purity. Humanity is diversity. Admiral Mara Saeed listened to the reports in silence. Her officers argued around her. Some feared Mira's power. Others spoke of her as salvation. Mara said nothing. Her eyes were sharp, her voice cold. "The doctrine is broken," she said at last. "But the war is only beginning." Dr. Chen turned to her, his face pale. "Admiral, if Mira spreads her truth, entire empires could fall apart." Mira's gaze hardened. "Then we must be ready. Humanity's return will not unite the galaxy. It will shatter it." The galaxy burned with whispers. Supremacy George had vanished into the rift. The cult of man had collapsed into chaos. And Archivist Mira's words spread like wildfire across every channel, every system, every colony. Humanity was never one shape. Humanity was all shapes. The old doctrine was shattered, but in the ashes of fear, something new began to rise. On the Concordant Spire, the largest council chamber in the galaxy, rulers and envoys of 100 species shouted at each other until the air shook with rage. "She is a fraud." The Quor warlord roared, his scaled jaws snapping. "A phantom meant to trick us." "She crossed time itself," the Avar chancellor hissed, his 4 wings trembling. "Only gods can walk like that." "She said we are human too," whispered Lorray, the young Zell envoy, her silver eyes wide. "What if she's right?" The chamber erupted in chaos. Voices collided, accusations flew, alliances cracked. Some demanded Mira's destruction. Others begged for her protection. Then the great screen lit up. Mira appeared. Her golden eyes glowed, calm and steady. her dark hair flowing in unseen winds. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the chaos like a blade. Stop. The chamber fell silent. You fight each other over lies. You chain yourselves with fear. But humanity was never your enemy. Humanity is in you. It has always been in you. Her words echoed across the galaxy, reaching every colony, every fleet, every outpost. Billions listened in silence, and for the first time in centuries. They felt it hope, but not all felt hope. In the shadows of a warship drifting near the rift, George screamed. He was alive. Barely. The rift had spat him out into a storm of energy, tearing at his flesh, burning his perfect skin. His once proud face was scarred, his body broken, but his rage burned hotter than ever. He clung to the shattered hull, whispering through clenched teeth, "She lies. She steals what is mine. Humanity will be mine. If I must become a monster to claim it, then so be it." The rift pulsed behind him, its light searing across his ruined face, and George laughed. Meanwhile, fleets across the galaxy moved. The core armed their warships, promising to crush Mira before her words spread further. The Avar debated whether to ally with her, fearing her power but craving her truth. Dozens of smaller species sent envoys begging for her protection. And through it all, Admiral Mara Sade watched in silence. Her fleet hovered above a ruined Drade world, its surface still scorched from the humans' first strike. Her officers argued furiously, "We should join Mira." One shouted, "She's dangerous." Another hissed, "She could unite the galaxy. She could destroy it." Mara raised her hand. The bridge fell silent. Her voice was calm, but iron. "Mira is not the question," she said. "The question is what humanity will choose, and we will be the ones to decide it." Her officers bowed their heads. They knew better than to argue. On a broken moon, Mira stood with Olivia. The hybrid scientist looked at her with wide, fearful eyes. "Why me?" she asked softly. "Why speak to me?" Mira's golden gaze was warm. "Because you saw the truth before the others. Because you know humanity is not a face, but a flame." Olivia trembled. "But I'm not. I'm not human. Not really. My blood is mixed. My body is wrong." Mira reached out, her glowing hand brushing against Olivia's scaled arm. "You are human because you choose to be. Because you carry the spark. The spark is not blood. The spark is will." Tears filled Olivia's eyes. For the first time in her life, she felt something she had never known. Belonging across the stars, people listened. Entire species began to call themselves human, not in blood, but in spirit. Hybrids lifted their heads high. Mongrels walked proudly through streets that once spat on them. Old divisions cracked, but the mighty empires trembled. If Mira's truth spread, their power would collapse. Their hierarchies, their chains, their Lysol would burn. And so they prepared for war. Mira knew it was coming. She stood before the rift, her glowing eyes steady. Olivia stood beside her, fear etched into her scaled face. "They will come for you," Olivia whispered. "They must," Mira replied calmly. "The truth is always hunted. Can we win?" Olivia asked. Mira looked out into the stars. "We already have. Humanity does not need victory. Humanity needs memory. And now they remember." But war was not waiting. It was already here. A core fleet dropped out of warp, weapons blazing. The sky above the broken moon lit up with fire. "Contact," Olivia cried, her eyes wide with panic. "They're here for you." Mira stepped forward, her golden form glowing brighter. "Then let them see what humanity truly is." She raised her hands, and the stars answered. The sky erupted with light. Fleets from across the galaxy arrived, some to protect her, others to destroy her. The battlefield stretched across 1,000 kilometers of space. Beams of energy carved through the void. Ships exploded into fire. At the center of it all, Mira floated above the moon, her golden light blazing brighter than suns. Her voice echoed across every channel. every frequency, every heart. You fight to chain yourselves. You fight to divide yourselves. But humanity rises. Humanity cannot be broken. Humanity is all of you. The fleets faltered. Soldiers hesitated. Admirals stared at their screens, their hands frozen, because in that moment, they felt it too, the spark, the human spark. But in the shadows, George smiled, his scarred face twisted into madness, his eyes burning with hate. He watched the fleets hesitate, watched Mira shine, and he whispered, "Rise all you want. I will burn you all." His hand tightened around a stolen control rod glowing with rift energy, and with it, he would bring the galaxy to its knees. The galaxy was on fire. Above the broken moon, fleets of every empire clashed in a storm of light and death. The core unleashed their scaled warships, firing beams of acid-green energy. The Avar spread their wings of silver metal, their fleets flying in perfect formation. Dozens of smaller species fought desperately, some for Mira, some against her. And at the center of it all, Mira shone like a star. Her golden light spread across the void, a beacon that cut through fear and fury. Her voice echoed across every channel, steady and calm even as war raged around her. You cannot kill what you are. You cannot bury what you remember. Humanity rises not in one form, not in one blood, but in all of you. Billions heard her words. Some wept, some shouted her name, some screamed in denial, but all listened. The hook 5 to 7 suspenseful minutes in the ruins of the cult chamber. Supremacy George staggered forward, his perfect skin scarred and broken. The rift had marked him, its energy twisting through his veins like poison fire. His once beautiful face was a mask of fury, his eyes wild. He clutched the rift control rod, its surface glowing with unstable energy. Each pulse sent agony through his body, but he did not care. They follow her, he hissed through clenched teeth. They worship her lies. But I will show them the truth. I will show them what humanity really is. He raised the rod. The rift screamed open above him, its light tearing across the battlefield. Ships buckled. Stars flickered. The void itself seemed to split, and from the rift poured shadows. The fleets faltered. As the void unleashed horrors, no one had ever seen beasts of broken time. Twisted forms of half-born humans, echoes of forgotten futures. They roared through space, tearing into ships, ripping metal and flesh alike. The core screamed in terror. The Avar broke formation. The battlefield dissolved into chaos. George stood at the heart of it all, his scarred face lit with mad triumph. "Do you see?" he cried. "This is humanity. Power, purity, fear." But Myra's golden light flared brighter, and her voice rang out across the battlefield. "No, George, that is not humanity. That is your shadow. And shadows cannot stand against the flame." Mira raised her hands. Her light spread, wrapping around the fleets, the soldiers, the civilians, listening from 1,000 worlds. And for a heartbeat, all saw what she saw. Children laughing in the streets of old Earth, mothers holding infants, fathers teaching sons and daughters, countless faces, different, unique, imperfect, beautiful. The vision filled the galaxy. "This is humanity," Mira whispered. "Not purity, not perfection, not fear. It is love. It is struggle. It is difference. It is all of us." The fleets fell silent. Weapons powered down. Soldiers lowered their hands. Even the beasts of shadow froze, trembling before the flame. George screamed. His body shook with rage, the control rod burning his flesh. "Lies. Lies. Humanity is mine. It is mine." The rift twisted violently, its edges collapsing inward. The shadows shrieked, clawing at the void as they were dragged back. The control rod cracked in George's hands, its light turning against him. Mira's golden eyes locked on him. "You were never supremacy," she said softly. "You were only afraid." The rod shattered. George screamed one final time, his body consumed in a blaze of light. And then he was swallowed by the rift he had unleashed. The battlefield fell silent. Slowly, Mira lowered her hands. The golden light faded. The rift collapsed into nothing, and the war was over. The fleets drifted in silence, their weapons dead, their crews shaken. Across the galaxy, billions whispered the same words. Humanity was never one shape. Humanity was all shapes. On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Mara sighed, stood tall. Her officers watched her in silence, waiting. At last, she spoke. "The truth is out," she said. "The doctrine is gone. The galaxy will never be the same." Dr. Chen stepped forward cautiously. "Admiral, is that good or bad?" Mara's sharp eyes stared into the stars. "It's both. Humanity is not here to rule. Humanity is here to remind, and reminders are dangerous." She turned to her crew, her voice hard. "The war may be over, but the struggle is just beginning." On the broken moon, Livia stood beside Mira, her scales glowing faintly in the golden light. For the first time, she did not feel shame in her blood. For the first time, she felt whole. "Is it done?" Olivia asked softly. Mira looked into the stars, her golden eyes calm. "No, humanity is never done. It is not a line. It is a flame. And a flame must always be carried forward." Olivia lowered her head. "Then will you leave us?" Mira smiled faintly. "I am already in you, in all of you. Whether I stand here or not, humanity endures." She turned, her form glowing brighter, and then she was gone. The galaxy was quiet again. But it was not the old silence of fear, it was the new silence of change. On 1,000 worlds, hybrids stood taller. Mongrels walked proudly. Children grew up hearing Mira's words whispered as stories. Entire empires rethought their laws, their chains, their truths. And across the stars, one truth spread faster than war ever had. Being human was never about purity. Being human was about power and diversity, a secret they never wanted you to see until now.